US President Donald Trump has confirmed that members of his team will meet with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky this week in Germany at the Munich Security Conference. This will mark the start of the peace talks that the American leader had mentioned.
I just spoke to President Volodymyr Zelensky of Ukraine. The conversation went very well. He, like President Putin, wants to make peace. We discussed a variety of topics having to do with the war, but mostly the meeting that is being set up on Friday in Munich, where Vice President J.D. Vance and Secretary of State Marco Rubio will lead the delegation. I am hopeful that the results of that meeting will be positive. It is time to stop this ridiculous war, where there has been massive and totally unnecessary death and destruction. God bless the people of Russia and Ukraine.
We have received confirmations from the Vice President and the Secretary of State. We will have a large congressional delegation, including lawmakers from both Republicans and Democrats. Thus, we will once again have strong American representation, just as we have since the very beginning of the Munich Security Conference, 61 years ago.
The US Secretary of State Marco Rubio confirmed that the main topic at the Munich Security Conference will be Russia's war against Ukraine.
In Munich, I think our goal is to reaffirm to everyone that, despite the conference taking place in Europe, it is obviously not limited to Europe. People and leaders from all over the world are attending this conference. But the main focus for everyone will be the war in Ukraine. And the president has been very clear. President Trump has made it clear that the war in Ukraine must end.
Ukraine wants peace. We Europeans want peace, and Americans want peace. The only one who has refused this peace is the Russian president, who for 3 years has been using increasing force to block any steps toward peace and responding with even more terrorism. If only the Russian president would finally come to his senses and realize that he must put an end to this catastrophe in the interest of peace across Europe, it would be a long overdue step. We must walk this path together to bring peace back to Europe. That is why it is so important that we, Europeans, in the past days, the past months, and in the coming days, continue to emphasize repeatedly that peace can only be achieved together with Ukraine and with Europeans.
The Security Conference will open in Munich on Friday, February 14th. It is expected to be attended by representatives from around 60 countries, more than 100 ministers from across the world, as well as leaders of international organizations. The Ukrainian delegation will be led by President Volodymyr Zelensky. Symbolically, Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022 began just a few days after the conclusion of the Munich conference. Notably, on the eve of the event, President Donald Trump held a call with the Kremlin dictator, Putin. The two sides agreed to start negotiations to end the war in Ukraine immediately.
Very substantive negotiations with the United States. There was a conversation with President Trump. A good conversation. Detailed. I am grateful to the President for his genuine interest in our shared opportunities, in how we can bring about real peace. It was a long conversation. We discussed many details, diplomatic, military, economic. President Trump informed me of what Putin told him. We believe that America's strength is enough to, together with us and all our partners, pressure Russia and Putin into peace. There was also a meeting with U.S. Treasury Secretary Bessent. We are preparing an agreement that will strengthen our security and give a new boost to our economic relations. We plan to finalize everything in such a way that during the Munich conference and our meetings there with American representatives, including Vice President Pence, we will have a clear vision of how we can enhance security and what document could formalize this.
We'll get something done. We're going to be meeting, actually tomorrow they're meeting in Munich, as you know, and we're going to have some other meetings, and I'll be dealing with President Putin largely on the phone, and we ultimately expect to meet. In fact, we expect that he'll come here, and I'll go there, and we're going to meet also probably in Saudi Arabia the first time. We'll meet in Saudi Arabia, see if we can get something done. But we want to end that war. That war is a disaster. It's a really bloody, horrible war. I think so. We think we're going to probably meet in Saudi Arabia, the first meeting. Hasn't been set, but not too distant future. We both understand, we know the Crown Prince, and I think it'd be it'd be a very good place to meet.
US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, who is currently on a working visit to Europe, will not attend the Munich conference. The Pentagon chief stated that the White House does not consider Ukraine's NATO membership as part of the solution to the Russia-Ukraine conflict. NATO diplomats reacted to Hegseth's firm stance.
And I want to follow up on the comments around the US Defense Secretary ruling out NATO membership for Ukraine as part of a peace settlement. Look, no one ever suggested that that was imminent, and certainly not the Biden administration. But do you think spelling it out like that risks looking like capitulating to one of Moscow's key demands when clearly they are looking for signs of weakness in this transatlantic alliance?
So the nations around the table, the UK is strongly behind President Trump's determination to secure an end to this conflict, to secure what he has said he wanted, which is a durable peace. And the commitment that we have made is to make sure that we put Ukraine in the strongest possible position while it is fighting when it chooses to talk.
And Trump's reaction to Pete Hegseth's statement has also surfaced online. It was shared by CBS News journalist Jennifer Jacobs.
I'm okay with that, Trump says of taking Ukraine's membership in NATO off the table. I don't think it's practical. He says he knows Hegseth made a statement today saying that he thinks it's unlikely or impractical. I think probably that's true, Trump said. U.S. will still send aid to Ukraine, but we want it secured, Trump said.
The negotiation process to end Russia's war against Ukraine will be extremely complex, painful, and take many months, according to former Munich Security Conference chairman Wolfgang Ischinger. It is crucial not to propose short-sighted solutions, but to establish long-term priorities, Ischinger wrote in an article published in Politico.
The idea that establishing security guarantees for Ukraine and a ceasefire line along the current front line is all that's needed is the West's wishful thinking. We need to be preparing for a much longer and extraordinarily complex process that will take many months. Russian President Vladimir Putin won't want to give the impression that he's dancing to Washington's tune. The whole security situation in Europe, the lifting of sanctions, nuclear and conventional arms control, and overall strategic stability, it will all have to be discussed. The Russian leader will demand equal footing with Trump, and he knows two things for certain. Trump will be gone for good by early 2029, and the U.S. president will want to avoid a military conflict with Russia at almost all costs. And with Europe's united front as shaky as it is, this could be an invitation for Putin to stall.